Well, after the violence that stopped goods leaving the harbour in Durban 2 weeks ago, goods started to leave the port again, but now they can't move through the harbour because of the way in which hackers have managed to get into the Transnet computer system. Well, that's what we understand. Described as a glitch, this means goods are being processed manually through the system, not through the computer system. You can imagine how cumbersome that is. The Transnet has declared force majeure. They're working on this problem furiously. The citrus industry, one sector that's hugely affected by this. Justin Chadwick is the CEO of the Citrus Growers Association of South Africa. Justin, good afternoon to you. I mean, this is incredible. What is this doing to your goods? Are you able to move them through the port of Durban at all?
Yes, thanks, Stephen. It's come at a terrible time for us. We're in the peak of our season, and as you mentioned, we're just sort of getting back on our feet after the unrest, so it is very disruptive to our season. We are moving some fruit. I mean, as you mentioned, there's manual systems taking place, so there is a bit of movement, but really it's way below the sort of levels that we should be experiencing, and we obviously hope that it will be over pretty soon.
What happens to the fruit? I mean, if you've got a slow process of moving it through the port, what actually happens to it? Does it sit in a warehouse somewhere?
So if it's been harvested, then it'll either be on the packhouse floor, or it'll be palletized and maybe on a truck, or it might be in Durban in one of the cold stores. So it could be at any point in the supply chain. We are quite fortunate in the cold weather in that if it has been harvested, it will still keep quite well. Citrus is quite a hardy fruit, so it doesn't waste or lose quality as quickly as some other fruit types. But once you harvest the fruit, it basically starts dying, as it were, and so we need to get into the market as soon as you possibly can.
And I presume you can't move it to Cape Town or Richards Bay because they have the same problem. It's all Transnet.
Yeah, so the only, it's all South African ports. Unfortunately, when we had the unrest, we could divert some fruit down to Cape Town, but we don't have that option here. The option that we do have, and we're investigating, and in fact, I believe some vessels have been called into Maputo. Maputo is a good option because it's fairly close to our northern growing regions. There are just some hurdles that we need to get through there. For instance, the phytosanitary issues in terms of pest and disease management and the rules that we have to abide by to export to certain countries. We just unfortunately won't be able to use Maputo for those markets.
Okay, I just want to understand that. So obviously different countries have different rules about what you're allowed to do to fruit. If it goes through Maputo, you won't be able to send it to where you normally send it because of that.
Yeah, so for example, the European Union's got very strict rules for certain pests. And for those, there's inspections in the port, and there's all sorts of other measures that one has to take or do in order to get your fruit to European Union. And we won't be able to do those measures through Maputo.
If you keep produce for too long, obviously it loses value. Is it possible to know how much money you've already lost? I mean, you've put in all the inputs, you've harvested it, you've sprayed water on it, you've irrigated it, you've grown it, and now you sit and watch it lose value before it can be exported. That must be heartbreaking.
Yeah, for the growers, it's been a really difficult time. We did ask them to either stop harvesting or slow down on harvesting during the unrest so we could clear all the backlog in the Durban port. Now to ask them to do the same again is probably impossible because they've already hung the fruit on the tree for too long. You can hang it for a while longer than normal, but you can't just leave it there hanging forever. It just becomes non-exportable. So, but in terms of actual losses, very difficult to tell at this stage. And it really depends on how long this disruption continues. If they manage to get on top of the IT issues quickly, and we manage to get the port back operating on automated systems, say before Thursday or Friday, and then we'll be all systems go, and we'll get the fruit down here and through the port, etc., and catch up. But if it carries on for a week or so, then it will be serious losses that we'll be facing.
I presume you've been in communication with Transnet. Do you know where they are with trying to fix their computer system? And I realize asking someone where they are with fixing a computer system is like asking how long is a piece of string.
Yeah, the other problem is that the IT systems are connected to emails and cell phones and all sorts of things. So it's quite difficult to communicate. It's really a case of just watching their press releases, etc., and letting them sort the issue out. I don't think badgering them too much is going to assist in this process.
Are you worried that you might lose some markets to other suppliers? I mean, the citrus industry, as I understand it, you'll know more than I, has actually grown quite strongly. It's become a big, important industry for us over the last few years. There have been various issues, black spot from time to time, the disease that affects some fruit. Are you worried that some other suppliers might spot the gap?
Yeah, definitely. That is the real concern, is the reputational damage that you get from not being able to supply markets where you have an order, to fulfill. And we're not the only citrus exporter in the Southern Hemisphere. There's a number of South American countries like Peru, Argentina, Uruguay, and also obviously Australia, that also produce good quality and citrus at the same time as us. We've had a very good price quality type of ratio for most markets. So our citrus is preferred in most markets. But if they have problems like this, they will definitely, the customer, the importer, will definitely look elsewhere.
Justin Chadwick, CEO of the Citrus Growers Association of South Africa. I do appreciate the time. Thanks very much indeed.